Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and today we are going to talk about skull bones. So let's start our topic with introduction. Human skull is one of the most complex and vital structures of skeletal system. It serves as a strong protective case for the brain, supports the sensory organs and provides the framework for the face. Skull is made up of several bones that are joined together by immovable joints that are called sutures. These bones are classified into two main groups, cranial bones and facial bones. Division of skull bones. It has cranial bones and facial bones. Now let's talk about these bones one by one. First we will talk about cranial bones. The cranial bones form the cranium which enclose and protect the brain. These bones also provide attachment points for muscles of head and neck. There are 8 cranial bones in total that include one frontal bone, two parietal bones, two temporal bones, one occipital bone, one sphenoid bone, and one ethmoid bone. Now let's talk about these bones one by one. So first is frontal bone. It is located at the front of skull and that's why it is called frontal bone as you can see in the diagram. It forms the forehead, the roof of eye sockets and parts of nasal cavity. It contains the frontal sinuses, which are air-filled cavities that help reduce the weight of skull and resonate the voice. Next, skull bone is cranial bone is a parietal bone, that is paired bone. That means there are two parietal bones in every skull. There are two large bones located on the sides and roof of the skull. They join each other at the top of head through the sagittal suture. Next cranial bone is temporal bone, that is also the paired bone. That means there are two temporal bones in every skull. They are found on the lower sides of the skull near the ear. Each temporal bone contains the external auditory meatus, the mastoid process and styloid process. It houses the structure of inner ear that are essential for hearing and balance. Next cranial bone is occipital bone. It is located at the back and basal skull. It contains the foramen magnum, that is a large opening through which spinal cord passes. It articulates with the first cervical vertebra, that is atlas. Next cranial bone is sphenoid bone. It is a butterfly-shaped bone situated at the base of the skull. It forms part of eye socket and floor of cranium. It contains the sala turcica, that is a depression that houses the pituitary gland. Next cranial bone is ethmoid bone, that is also the unpaired bone. It is a light spongy bone located between the eyes. It contributes the medial wall of the eye sockets, the nasal cavity and the nasal septum. It contains the cribriform plate through which olfactory nerve passes. Now let's talk about facial bones that are also included in the skull bones. As we already said, the skull bones have two categories, the cranial bones and facial bones. We have talked about the cranial bones, now we will talk about the facial bones. Facial bones form the structure of face, protect the opening of digestive and respiratory systems, and also provide attachment for facial muscles. There are 14 bones in total. They include two nasal bones, two maxilla, two zygomatic bone, two palatine bones, two lacrimal bone, two inferior nasal conchae, one vomer, and one mandible. Now let's talk about these facial bones one by one. So first facial bone we have is nasal bone. As you can see in the diagram, it is sphere bone. That means there are two nasal bones in every skull. It is a small rectangular bone that forms the bridge of the nose. Next we have is maxilla, that is also the paired bone. It is the upper jaw bone which also forms part of the orbit, nasal cavity and hard palate. It contains the maxillary sinuses, that is the largest paranasal sinuses. Next facial bone we have is zygomatic bone, that is also the paired bone. It is commonly known as the cheekbone. It forms part of the orbit and gives shape to the face. Next facial bone we have is palatine bone, that is also the paired bone. It forms the posterior part of hard palate and part of nasal cavity. Next facial bone we have is lacrimal bone, that is also the paired bone. It is a small bone located in the inner corner of each eye. It contains the lacrimal fossa which houses the tear duct. Next facial bone we have is inferior nasal conchae, that is also the paired bone. It is curved bone located inside the nasal cavity. It helps in filtering, warming and humidifying the air we breathe. Next facial bone we have is a vomer, that is a thin flat bone. It is an unpaired bone that forms the lower part of the nasal septum. Next, we have is mandible, that is also the unpaired bone. That means there will be one mandible in every skull. It is the lower jawbone and the only movable bone of the skull. It contains a socket for lower teeth and forms the chin. Functions of skull bone. First function is protection, as the cranium protects the brain while the facial bone protects sensory organs such as the eyes, nose, and tongue. Second function is support, as the skull bones provide the framework for the head and face. Next function is movement, as the mandible allows chewing and speaking. Next function is respiration and digestion, as the bones form the opening for air cavity, that is nasal cavity, and food cavity, that is oral cavity. And fifth function is communication, as skull bone houses structures that are essential for speech, facial expression, and sound resonance. Conclusion of this lecture video. Skull is a complex structure that is made up of 22 bones, 8 cranial bones, and 14 facial bones. Each bone has a specific role in protecting the brain, supporting sensory organs, and shaping the human face. Together, these bones form a strong yet lightweight framework that is essential for life, communication, and identity. And it's all about the skull bones. Hopefully, you liked the video. If you do, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. Thank you for watching.